They'd go around their house and be like, "Hello, God!"
That scared me.
They would scream it. "Hello, Governor. Were you in the boat when the boat tipped over?" "No, silly, I was in the water." Oh my God. Is this rolling?
Yes.
All right. Here we go.
Hold on.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon. I'm here with my beautiful wife Alyssa,
What it do?
and we are back for another Monday morning Devo.
Yes.
We first want to say thanks to everybody who's been viewing the last few weeks. You've been sharing, you've been commenting. It's been a major blessing to us, and we've even received messages on Instagram and Facebook that people are saying things like, "Man, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I'm going through this. I needed to be reminded of this." So we just want you to know we're honored and blessed by your comments and feedback,
Yes.
that we're actually being a blessing to you. So
Thanks for hanging with us.
it makes you feel good when you know what you're doing is actually,
Making a difference.
yeah. So
Yep.
we love you guys.
We
and
do. We love y'all.
appreciate you. All right. So babe, we just finished our little 2-part series on peace, and now what are we going to do?
Now we are starting a new series.
Oh yes.
And this series is going to be all about relationship.
Yes.
We are going to do this over the next month. So
Oh, man.
4
4
weeks.
weeks, including today. Yep.
And it's going to be great. So we're going to talk about relationship, what that entails, how to really cultivate a relationship with the Father.
Yeah, and like a daily thing, because so many times people have a relationship with God, but a lot of times in religion, like I was raised, it was,
Yeah.
Sundays and Wednesdays. And then the other times was, work and school and everything else. And
Yeah, I shared a message once years ago. It was called Stalker Zone. And
like that.
I talked about, are you in a stalker zone with the Father, or are you in sonship zone with the
Wow.
Father? And how, oftentimes, our relationship, we
Yeah.
started off in kind of stalker zone. I followed
you
Brandon.
did. No, I'm joking.
He followed me too. Don't
Yes.
don't let him tease you.
Periscope, we love you.
So we followed each other, and we knew each other kind of like
Just acquaintances. really.
acquaintances. And that's kind of how we are within the church a lot of the times. We come on Sundays, Wednesday night service, if you have one, and you're kind of in this stalker zone. You kind of know God, but it's kind of, him third party.
Right.
Like away from him, from the pastor's view or the leadership's view or the authority's view. But
that's
it isn't
good.
until you come into sonship zone
Yeah.
that you know him for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how we had to be,
Well-
personally. We had to go from just following each other to actually communicating with each other.
Right.
And
The
once
relationship.
that happened, the rest was history.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
And I think when I think about relationship, when I think about, this daily thing, for so long I've even taught, about how it has to be daily. And I did this from a single perspective,
yeah.
and now understanding marriage and going through courtship and going through dating and all those things,
Yeah.
it makes me understand the word a lot deeper and better than I did even as a single guy, because I've experienced some new things. And so I was talking to her about this relationship, and Revelation 2 always sticks out to me. Out of the 7 churches that Jesus talks to in the book of, or the first few chapters of Revelation, the Ephesus church, or the church of Ephesians, where Timothy pastored, is one of the most intriguing to me. And so I just want to read like kind of the first couple verses here, and then talk about how we're going to apply this to the relationship
Yeah.
and a daily thing. So it says this: write this letter to the angel of the church of Ephesus. This is the message from the one who holds 7 stars in his right hand, and the one who walks among the 7 gold lampstands. So a lot of metaphorical stuff here. And then he says this: I know all the things you do. I've seen your hard work and your patient endurance. I know you don't tolerate evil people. You've examined the claims of those who say they're apostles but are not, and you've even discovered they're liars. You have patiently suffered for me without quitting. So he gives them this list of all these things they do. Great, right? But then he says this in verse 4, but I have this one complaint against you. And then he drops the bomb on them. He says, you don't love me as you did at first.
Yeah.
Now, one of the translations says you've left your first works. And so as I read these things, I put it in perspective of even us, how when we first started communicating, we were still acquaintances.
Yeah.
We bonded into a friendship that ended up blossoming into a covenant, a
Yeah.
marriage. And I just believe that God has absolutely created everything in the physical to mimic how it is in the spiritual.
Yeah.
And so we can understand even deeper spiritual principles better by understanding natural principles
Yeah,
first.
he's creative God.
Absolutely.
Everything he creates, all the pictures he puts into a picture of what it is in the spiritual.
Right.
So, in a relationship, you have two things.
You've got communication and intimacy.
Yes.
All right. And so communication we break down in two forms. All right.
Yep.
The first thing is you have to talk to the other person,
Yep.
but you also have to receive the communication of the other person
Yes.
and process it. If it's just a one-way street, then it's not true communication.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of marriages are. They are in communication breakdown because one person's doing all the communicating. Even Alyssa in her previous marriage
Yeah.
was married to somebody who did not talk. They'd
Yeah.
shut down, they wouldn't talk. And so one of the things I have to be very mindful of in our own relationship is I need
have
to
to
speak.
communicate.
Yeah, I need to hear her and I need to speak on what she's saying and respond to her.
And so many times in our relationship with God, that's where people fail, is the fact that either they're doing all of the talking,
Yeah.
and so when they come and spend time with the Lord, they're the ones talking so much they never
Right.
shut up long enough to
Right.
listen to what God needs to say.
Yeah.
Or they're just always waiting for God to talk, and they're never doing their
Right,
part.
and they're just, they're wanting to hear things. Well, here's what we want to teach you over the next few weeks. The first two components to a daily relationship with God is communication, and that's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So God has to speak to us, and we have to speak to God.
Yes.
And we do that. God speaks to us through His Word,
Yep.
being in the Word, and we speak
prayer.
to God through prayer.
Yeah.
And so if you take either of those away, you're not having true communication.
You're
Because
taking
it
one
has to be a two-way street.
It has to. And then the next dynamic of relationship is intimacy.
Right. Now, what took us from being friends,
Mm-hmm.
because you can have communication with somebody, but not be in covenant with them.
Yeah.
And so there come this point where I'd had some real good communication with this hot, foxy mama right here. And I decided, you know what? I think I want to put a ring on this. And
Yep.
even after I put a ring on it, we got engaged in December of 2017.
Yep.
And even at that point, we weren't in covenant.
Until we got married.
Exactly. And our wedding was not what brought covenant. The marriage certificate
Nope.
is not what brought covenant. The only thing that brought covenant and made us now from just communicating friends to actual marriage partners in this covenant that God created was intimacy.
Yes.
And that in the spirit correlates to the natural.
Yes.
Worship.
In worship. Yep.
So we have to have communication with God, and to be in that covenant, we have to have intimacy with Him as worship daily. Like this is a daily thing.
Yeah.
We are intimate with each other, not just sexually, but
Emotionally.
emotionally. We know each other.
Yep.
We're there when you're hurting, I hurt. You
Yep.
know, when you're going through something, I'm going through it, or if vice versa, when
Yeah.
I'm dealing with things. And so it's
And
this
so many
daily
times,
walk.
There are so many people that are really good at the prayer and the word, but they don't know how to do the worship side.
Right.
Because they have parts of their life that they don't want God
Right.
to touch.
Right.
And so they're like, okay, I'll read my word and I'll pray, but I don't want to get too close because I don't want God to touch those areas that
Right.
I don't want to deal with.
And then you got people who love the intimacy part.
Yeah. And
So
then
they'll
they're
be worship,
horrible at
but
the
they're
other.
not in their word or praying every day.
Yeah.
They don't having that
They
daily
don't know the
relationship.
word.
So really, what they become is more fornicators spiritually, than they are in covenant with God. Because it's
Yeah.
like if all you ever want to do is be in that emotional state of worship,
Yeah.
but you don't have any word foundation and you don't have a
prayer
prayer life.
It
What are
doesn't
you
work.
doing? Like,
you
it
have
just-
to have
it can't
all,
work like that.
all three components to a relationship. So we're going to take the next 3 weeks.
Yes.
And we're going to break down prayer, the word, and worship.
worship.
And we're going to talk about each of these things individually and what that entails.
Yes.
So we just wanted to introduce this today.
Yeah, and I just want to encourage you,
Yes.
start now. take some time, be in your word every day, have some time in prayer every day, and sing some songs to Jesus. Literally
Yeah.
worship him. You know, the word broke down is worth-ship in the Old English. And what it means is we ascribe worth to God. And so to worship him just means telling him what he's worth to you.
Yeah.
You know, how thankful you are. So
So I would encourage you, by ending this out, to ask yourself today,
Yeah.
am I in the stalker zone? Am
Right.
I only spending time with God at church? Am I only knowing about him through what the pastor says or what the leadership says?
Yeah.
Or have I moved into sonship? Have I moved into this area where I'm actually knowing him on a daily basis?
man, that's good, babe.
Yep.
And guess what? The next 3 weeks, we're going to unpack this even deeper.
gonna be good.
So make sure you share this.
Yes.
Invite somebody.
And come hang out with us every Monday.
Every Monday at 10 a.m. We
Yes.
love you guys.
Love you guys.
And we can't wait to see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.